This episode is brought to you by MedBridge Education. Log into medbridgeeducation.com/TN Therapy Outsource. Use the promo code Dr. Mike or alternative to get $200 discount or over 40% off. Gain access to 1,000 plus online courses, compliance training, certification preps, program, and so much more. So again, thank you very much. Enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Mike Chua again, physical therapist and certified dementia practitioner. And yes, we are coming to you live today. Oh gosh, that was a long intro. Well, anyway, today I wanted to introduce to you ACG Alternative Careers Group, our featured alternative career coach for today, or for this week, or for whatever. We have Mr. Todd Wickstrom. He is actually the CEO of Groove Enhancers Leadership Academy. I met him at the SSPT Live. He was one of the speakers there, and I learned a lot from him. And at least I think every week we talk. We talk through the Facebook Messenger, and we just talk and encourage each other. And I wanted to introduce you guys to one of our coaches that will help us make this group better and bigger and support you guys and bring out the best in you. So I would like to introduce you, Todd Wickstrom. So Todd, how are you, sir?
Kumusta aking kapatid?
There you go.
Right?
He's trying his best to speak.
Was that like a super totally butchered version of Tagalog, or was that relatively close?
It's pretty close, man. It's pretty close.
How would you say?
The 11,000 members that we have here, majorities are American, so you
Nice.
can speak normal English now.
Awesome. Well, it's I study Mandarin, and my Chinese tutor told me, and you'll appreciate this, Mike, is learning a foreign language, especially as Americans learning an Asian language, that it's like building a house, and that the foundation is really pronunciation. And then it's grammar, and then it's vocabulary. But every time that we try to learn something new, we usually start with vocabulary. And if we start with vocabulary, but we can't pronounce it right, nobody will understand what we're saying anyway. So it's a great tutorial, but man, it's awesome to be here with you. And I've appreciated our relationship ever since SSPT Live, and just excited to be here to share what my passion is with you. You obviously have a very specific niche, or however we want to pronounce it, right? For people that are looking for alternative careers that are in healthcare. And my background is I started off to become a chiropractor, and I got about halfway through school. And no offense to anybody that is in the audience that is a DC, but I got about halfway through chiropractic school and just couldn't take, I'm sure it was only the people in my class, but all of their complaining about how difficult the coursework was. And I was like, this is nuts. I want to go be what I jokingly refer to as an RD, which is a real doctor.
A real doctor, huh?
A real doctor, exactly. So I decided to go to medical school. And while I was waiting for medical school to start, my college roommate, when we both left the University of Kansas, I went on to chiropractic school, and he went to Thunderbird University, which is the international business school in Phoenix, which is part of Arizona State University, and was a 2-year program. And I don't know how he did what he did, but he worked some sort of Chinese voodoo or magic on me and convinced me to get a deferment on my enrollment. So instead of going on to medical school, he and I went together and took over his parents' Chinese restaurant. And I've basically been an entrepreneur ever since. And what I've realized is that at the end of the day, it really doesn't make any difference what we do for a living. But as soon as we hire one human being, ourselves as the leaders or the owner of the business being the first, we know it's going to be dysfunctional from the beginning, because as human beings, we're a mess, right? We are broken. And how do we create synergy, and how do we create great teams, and how do we build an amazing culture with a bunch of messed up individuals? And so that has been my passion for many, many years, Mike. And you and I have talked about this for a while, and it really doesn't make any difference what the business is. I've consulted with everybody from a publishing house to a gelato manufacturer to a health coach certifying business to loose leaf tea companies, to you name it. And they all have the same issues, is that once we have human beings on our team, we all have a very specific set of needs that we all have to feel content. And that first need that we have is that we want to know that we're competent. We want to know that we're good at what we do. We also want to be able to be authentic, to be able to be who we are when we're filling that position, and we want to feel connected to other people. And the tragic reality is that there's so many toxic relationships in the world that we don't really have that connection to the leadership team, because the leaders don't make us feel competent or authentic or connected. So then we form our own splinter cells, right? We form our own groups or teams underneath, and it sort of becomes us against them. Mm-hmm. So my real passion has been really helping. And as you know, Mike, we've talked about this before, is that there's very little leadership or team building training that we are investing in the education of our healthcare professionals.
You know what? You mentioned team building. When I was back home in the when I was working as a pharmaceutical rep, every month, obviously every month, right? Every month we had a meeting, and then every 6 months, we have what you call a major national conference, and we did a team building wherein the actual district manager will lead his team to different different areas. It's just like a team building, and they, it increases our our cohesiveness as a team. And I got here in the States, I reported to my what do you call this, the director of rehab. I mean, the only meeting that we had was the morning meeting, and that's it. And I was actually surprised. We ate lunch by ourselves here. I'm like, and then I'm like, I mean, in back when I was a pharmaceutical rep, everybody was eating at the same time. We would get, we had the same time we eat, and the actual boss was actually paying for everything. I didn't have to shell out money. And when I got here, I'm like, oh gosh, am I going to pay for my lunch? I'm like, really? And I know that's the culture here, but it just really got me surprised, because there's no leadership. I mean, I'm going to say this now. When I take out my staff or even the PTA that reports under me, I make it a point I pay for their lunch, or it's like $10-15, and it's not because you want something out of them, but because you want to be that leader in your field, that you're taking care of them. And I think that's what's lost in this, in being a leader, whether it's in a rehab or in pharmaceutical or anything, healthcare. We've lost that art of leadership, wherein you're actually leading and being with your team. So
yeah, man, we live in a culture of fast, cheap, and easy. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, it's our music, it's our architecture, it's our everything, right? Like if you think about like back 200 and 300 years ago. We don't even have the ability or the patience or the technology to build a cathedral. I mean, you think about like St. Paul's Basilica or these other places around the world, right? And even, you know, the Philippines has a lot of these amazing institutions the same way. Is there's a commitment that has to be by intention passed on to generations to complete the project. But we don't have that. So I got very involved with an organization called Slow Food. Early, I don't even know how we describe the years that we're in, 2000.
Early 60s.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, probably. No, but was not even in the 19s, but was in the 20s, let's just say. And one of my best friends that I met, who was from Italy, who was also a part of Slow Food. And Slow Food, for those of you guys that don't know or aren't familiar with it, Slow Food started in the 1980s in Italy when McDonald's went to go put their first restaurant in Rome. And the Italians thought the world was coming to an end. And so they staged this amazing Italian protest on the steps of the piazza in Rome. And they said there has to be a better way. It was really designed to protect regional flavors and regional foods. And so they brought together their best bowls of pasta and their Chiantis and everything that made that area, the area around Rome, so unique and so special. And they started this idea of defending regional food so the whole world doesn't become fast food, right? It doesn't become McDonald's and Burger King and Kentucky Fried Chicken that we can find anywhere on the planet. So
you mean those are fast food?
Yeah, dude, here's the thing. Apparently, and I learned this later on in life, they aren't reflective of most areas in which they find themselves doing business. So
That's so true. That
right?
is so
So
true.
you think about the amazing foods in China, or the amazing foods in Japan, or the amazing foods in the Philippines, or Italy, or Spain, or wherever it happens to be, Louisiana, Georgia, Kansas City, right? Whatever it happens to be, it's fast, cheap, and easy. So how do we grow these massive businesses that are just regurgitating fast, cheap, and easy? But the only reason I bring that up is that I remember one of the first wake-up moments for me was when my buddy from Italy, I always love to ask people that are immigrants to the US or visiting us for the first time what their biggest culture shock was. And my buddy, who was very involved in Slow Food at that time, told me that his biggest challenge, his biggest conflict was how in the world did we come up with this idea of a drive-through or being able to eat in our cars? That was so foreign to him because they really appreciated every moment, every bite, all of the flavors, all of the nuances, really appreciating what the farmer put into making the X, Y, and Z, whatever it happens to be.
Oh gosh, that is so powerful, Todd.
Don't you think it's like Jollibee, right? Or whatever it is, right? Like we think about these places where it is fast, cheap, and easy, and there's no, when we're ingesting or we're eating that, there's no real connection to the producer.
Yeah. You know what? I just realized that maybe I'm being Americanized now. I've been eating fast food all the time, and my body is becoming a fast food. But yeah, I remember back home, we made it a point that eating is a celebration,
Right.
and we've forgotten that art of camaraderie, enjoying friendship with your coworkers. Actually, just the eating breakfast with your family or dinner with your family has gone. It's a lost art already. And my wife, we make it a point that we eat together with the kids and everything. But with regards to breakfast, we rarely eat breakfast all together because the kids are in a hurry. But I remember back home in the Philippines, my mom, I mean, we were eating breakfast at the same time, just like supper too. I remember that. Now I just remember that. Thank you for bringing that up,
When
Todd.
you think about it too, Mike, is that most of the values that we learned were around the dinner table,
Yeah.
right? And now none of us have dinner together. We have it watching TV, we have it in our own little messed up minds about especially today. And today it's even crazier than it was 10 or 20 years ago, which is with our smartphones, which couldn't be a more ironic term.
Speak of smartphone, I'm going to stop the PowerPoint so we could see each other. There you go.
Right, but that's what we connect to, is this fake social connection, right?
Yeah.
This idea that we're sort of somehow connected to people that like or laugh or love us, whatever that happens to be. But my passion has been, just to get back more to the point, because we could talk about this whole thing for days and years. And in fact, I'll give you a very special, unique discount for all of the ACG people that connects to another business that I started almost 20 years ago, 2001, right after 9/11. It's called Heritage Foods USA. And we work with small family farmers around the country. And our mission is, we sort of jokingly say that in order to save them, we have to eat them, which means providing a marketplace for these rare and endangered breeds of animals. But what we realized after a while is that the most rare and endangered breed of all of the animals was the small family farmer, because they were being put out of business every day by industrial agriculture. So I would love to share a discount code with your teams and your people that are part of what you're doing, and this whole alternative career, just to be able to support these amazing farmers. And you can appreciate the differences in the breeds. But the first 4 years that we were open, we were only open one day a year, which was for Thanksgiving, promoting these heritage breeds of turkeys.
Oh, wow.
And so, I've come full circle. I started off to be a chiropractor, and I've spent many, many years supporting other institutions, other businesses, doing training for, again, whether it was a publishing house or a loose leaf tea company, or whether it was a gelato manufacturer, just helping them to build their teams. And now I've come back sort of full circle into healthcare and really helping to promote and support physical therapists, chiropractors, occupational therapists, primarily those that are passionate about providing non-pharmaceutical, non-surgical solutions to people.
Mm-hmm. So before you go further,
please,
can you tell us about what is the Groove Enhancers Leadership Academy is? I mean, what do you really do there? I mean, what do you and Jerry do, and what do you guys do with that? And how can we reach you or something like that? So
no, excellent question. And I really appreciate it. So if you go to grooveenhancers.com, you'll learn a lot about what we do. And the name itself, which is a little goofy, for lack of a better word, grooveenhancers.com. I accepted a position, actually the very last paycheck I ever had was with a company called Health Coach Institute. And they wanted to bring me on as a consultant, which I did in the very beginning. And then they asked me to come on board as the chief operating officer. And I agreed under one condition, that my title wouldn't be the chief operating officer, because for me, it just seemed like being a corporate tool, right? That guy that walks around with his clipboard and checks off whether people are doing things right or wrong. So I told them that I would do it, but only if I could come up with my own title, which was the Chief Groove Enhancer, which means helping teams get their groove on, basically, and really understanding how to develop an amazing culture, how to develop a lot of leadership. And just, as you know, Mike, and I'm sure that what you've experienced is that when we go through, ironically, when we go through healthcare training, we become trained to be great technicians.
That's true. We become technicians. So,
Right.
well, anyway,
So,
I'm here in your website right now.
I just saw my 4 sons as you were scrolling down. Yeah, my 4 little boys who are no longer little.
Well, I just wanted to show to our group, to ACG on what your website is. Go to grooveenhancers.com, and Todd here, they've got online courses, actual one-on-one coaching. You don't want to do that random ramblings, but that's actually good too. So what is this spring hiring camp?
Well, what I do this, and we're just getting ready. It's a little bit late in the season, but we're getting ready to start the summer one too, is this whole idea around building teams, because that's what we were just getting into, right? Is that as healthcare providers, healthcare practitioners, we get trained to become really good technicians around helping to cure rotator cuff issues or Achilles heel issues or ACL issues, but we never get trained on how to be good leaders or how to hire the right people. So the hiring camps are an intensive 4-week training that we've actually I've turned into a 6-week training program that's called Leading with Love. And my passion and my belief, as we've talked about before, Mike, is that we would never get married to somebody we're not in love with. So why would we ever hire somebody that we're not in love with? Especially when we spend the majority of our time, at least Monday through Friday, the 9 to 5, with the people that we've hired. They're supposedly helping us provide the living and the reality for those that we are deeply committed to. So I look at the whole hiring and interview process as the courtship. Right? So that's our dating period. We're getting to know if we're compatible. How do you squeeze the toothpaste out of the tube? Do you talk with food in your mouth? Do you, whatever it is, right?
So here you're teaching business owners how to find the right employees.
Exactly, right. And how to build a team, because my experience has always been, as business owners, we share a disproportionate amount of the stress in the business, right? Because we are feeling like we have to identify all of the problems. We have to solve all the problems. But the reality is everybody that's a part of the team is equally invested in the livelihood of the business. Because if that business goes out of business, whether I'm working at the front desk or I'm the hired gun as a provider or a practitioner, I'm equally exposed if the business goes out of business. So what I love to do is make sure we're hiring the right people, having clearly defined expectations of those people, making sure that they all feel competent and authentic and connected to each other. And that they also have a seat at the table and a stake in the outcome, right? Because they all want to feel like they are a part of the solution going forward. And they also, and for me, a lot of this has come, Mike, from being involved in the food business for so long is, if we're busy on Saturday nights and I'm the fry cook and I'm making 1,000 orders of onion rings or whatever it is, I'm still making the $8 or $9 an hour, whether I make 1,000,000 onion ring orders or one onion ring order. I'll still make the $8 an hour, but the servers out front, they've got more skin in the game because they're going to make more money based on how busy we are. So what I've always tried to do is to figure out a way to level the playing field, if you will. So what I do, just to bring it all back to the Groove Enhancers Leadership Academy, there's only 3 ways to work with me. One is I only bring on 5 private clients at a time. So I really believe and act and feel as if I am their virtual business partner. So there's 5 people at a time that I am very invested in understanding complete transparency. And this is why some people don't agree to work with me, because I insist on complete transparency, which means allowing me extremely evident look under their kimono, if you will, right? So I want to know their business. I want to know how much money do they have in the bank. One of the very first things that I do with all of my private clients is we build what I call their cash in the tank model.
You don't want to know my cash in the bank.
Right, which is what most people say, right? Which is why it's easy to only have 5 clients, because most of us, when we look at how much cash do I have in the tank, and the cash in the tank is a measure of how many days could you stay in business without any new customers.
That's right. That's right. And actually, that's one of the main costs of actually burnout too, with as an employee. Actually, number one cost of divorce too is your cash flow. So, and if that is one of the costs of the divorce, it's also one of the costs of burnout in your actual job. If you are not satisfied and not really profitable, whether in your business or as an employee, if you're not putting in income, it's gonna burn you out. You're gonna be stressed out. On the Everlasting Training Academy.
So the ETA, estimated time of arrival, or in our case, the Everlasting Training Academy, is something that my very dear and near business partner, Jerry Durham.
The awesome Jerry Durham. The one and only,
Jerry,
right?
Yeah, and Jerry is one of the things that I've loved about Jerry from the very beginning, and the reason and the way that we started this whole thing from the very beginning, was a conversation. That's how everything starts, right? Jerry and I went to, I met, so I shared a little bit of this at SSPT Live, but I met Paul Goff before Paul was what I sort of jokingly referred to as one of the Pied Pipers of PTs in the US. And at the time that Paul and I met, Paul had 2 clients in the US. And it was the first time that I ever shared my belief around the 7 foundations of a healthy business and the 7 responsibilities or relationships that we have as business leaders and business owners. And Paul continued to reach out to me, and he was like, dude, you need to start teaching this stuff to healthcare and to PTs, because we don't get any of this training. And I finally did it, and I went to speak at one of Paul's mastermind groups in Chicago, and Jerry was there. Jerry came up afterwards, and I think we had probably a 2.5-minute conversation. And the only other time that he and I ever met was when we were together in Clearwater for SSPT Live a few months ago. And so we started a whole business together around building his passion for the client experience and my passion for the team experience. Because
that's amazing. You mentioned about you only saw them once or twice in the internet.
We live in, right? It's a virtual world now.
I know. It's just amazing.
Which is what you do, right? You're connected to like however many 11-ish thousand people that you have on this group. How many of those people have you ever met in person?
Not even 1,000.
Right, exactly. And so I think that that's why it's so beautiful. And at the end of the day, you know, Jerry and I are, you know, two sides of the same coin. Jerry uses a lot of expletives, especially one in particular that starts with an F on most of our phone calls, and I don't use them ever. And it's like Jerry never uses the F word as profanity. He uses them as an exclamation point because he's so passionate about whatever he's communicating, primarily around the client experience. And for me, my belief is that the team experience can never be better than the client experience. So if your team, if you don't have that culture, if you don't have that camaraderie, if you don't have that amazing reason to show up for work every week, the clients will feel it.
You know what? That is so true. You mentioned about the team camaraderie. I'm going to go back to that pharmaceutical experience. Like what I said, every semester we meet up, and then we were like, I'm like the Amazing Race. I don't know if you've seen the show. We were like the Amazing Race. The company will give a certain task, and then for a whole week, we were in that hotel and we were doing all sort of Amazing Race stuff. You know, there's this group of people that will organize it, and then they will give us all this task, and it just improved our friendship, you know. And now that I've no longer worked for them, for that company, every time they come in here in the States, they say hi, hello to me. And, you know, some are general managers, some are operational managers now. And I actually enjoy them. They would come here and say hi, hello. And even the actual doctors that we sponsor to do those team building activities, they still love me. They still send me messages in Facebook. And because we had that training program from them. So yeah.
Let me ask you this, dude. Why did you leave?
Well, remember, and when in pharmaceutical sales is only a sales until your next performance.
Right. You're only as good as your next book or movie or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm. With healthcare, I wanted to go back to healthcare because I can help people bring out the best in them. In pharmaceutical, we're basically, you know, selling medication and talking to your doctors and being fancy, going around different places. And yes, it's fulfilling when you hit your target, but if you don't hit your target, gosh, you're going to be like the flavor of the month, something like that.
Yep.
So with healthcare, you know, your patient doesn't get better, you just discharge them, right? If they get better, gosh, it's more like a gold medal for you. So that's what I missed in healthcare. You know, yep.
Totally get it. You know, this is funny, this picture here that you brought up. So the oldest is on the far left, who is an amazingly accomplished musician and composer. And as most of them are, barista in Boston. Number two, who seems to be the goofiest and is the goofiest and probably the smartest of all of them, just graduated from UCLA in June with his master's degree in, hold on for this, neuroscience.
Oh
And
gosh.
getting ready to go do his PhD and MD, even with his tongue hanging out of his mouth. The next one is the old man.
Oh gosh.
Is the proud papa. The next one with the long hair that everybody jokes with me, and maybe there is, although I can absolutely confirm that there has never been any other genetics involved, but seems to be the most Asian of all of them. And he's the baby who just turned 21 on July 3rd. And Nate is now 23 years old and is trying to go back, and Mike, you'll appreciate this, to Spain, where he was 3 years ago trying out for a European basketball league. And the very first scrimmage, not even a game, the very first scrimmage, went up for a rebound and landed on somebody's foot and tore his Achilles heel.
Oh wow.
And now he's been through 2 Achilles heel surgeries and is trying to get back into the game. So that's my motley crew. And what's so funny about that picture in particular, Mike, is that my brother had the first girl in 5 generations. So let that sink in for a minute. But so what I do and what the Groove Enhancers work now is all about is really helping to support healthcare providers. And back to this whole idea around alternative career choices is that I've always been in search of better solutions for healthcare providers that don't require them trading time for money. So my inspiration to become a chiropractor in the very beginning was from my uncle, who was one of the very first chiropractors in the city of Denver, who worked until he was 72 and was dead when he was 73. There's no retirement to be had because it was so physically demanding. You know, he would work 5 or 6 days a week for 50 plus years and beat up his body. So my passion and my commitment with all of my private clients or group clients, whoever they happen to be, has been to really find them a solution to provide a passive residual income.
We love that. Everybody wants that passive residual income, you know. So so let me just recap, Todd.
Please.
So you do first you can do training for entrepreneurs who are wanting to hire employees, you know, awesome employees. I think I need that training, right? And then you also do the Everlasting Training Academy.
Yeah.
Is this the correct me if I'm wrong, is this where you guys teach them how to be the front desk specialist? Is this it?
Yes. And it's what Jerry and I like to refer to as the client experience specialist.
Yeah. So for those people who are watching right now, ACG, there's this course that Jerry and Todd here is they've created called
right, like just to give him full credit, Jerry, who has been a physical therapist for 20 plus years in the San Francisco Bay Area. And he and I came together because of his passion for the client experience and my passion for the team experience.
Yep. So if you want to learn how to give an awesome client experience, you know, reach out to Todd and Jerry. And then obviously the one-on-one coaching, you also do this too, right? One-on-one coaching.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome. And that is the reason why ACG, we are, what do you call this? We are trying to bring in a lot of different coaches for our group. We got 11,000 members. I know, I mean, right now, I don't know how many are watching. There's 4 right now, but here's the thing. I cannot serve that 11,000 there. Emma cannot serve that. And not all those 11,000 members wants to be a dementia practitioner like me. And that's the reason why we're bringing other coaches, other moderators to help us bring out the best in you, ACG. So if you have any questions on how to hire proper employees, good employees, reach out to Todd and Jerry. If you are wanting to be a front desk person, you know, I mean, a lot of if how do you say this, front desk certification.
Yeah.
You know, if you want that, you know, to learn how to be a front desk certified or whatever. If you're a tech right now, obviously, if you're a therapist, you don't want to be that, you know. But if you have a clinic and you want your front desk lady to learn how to be a good front desk lady, you go reach out to Todd and Jerry, because remember this. I'm not gonna say the clinic, but when I called my doctor's clinic, I called her. I know the doctor. He's my friend, and he's my cardiologist. And we came in here in the States at the same time. We were hired with the same company when I moved to the hospital. And I know him. He's awesome. I called to set up an appointment, and the lady behind the phone didn't know that I knew him. She was so mean. I'm like, gosh, is this what this lady is representing my cardiologist?
Yeah.
And I told the cardiologist, my doctor, and my friend, hey, do you know that this is how your receptionist answers the phone? And she's so mean and everything. He's like, yeah. And I said, what are you going to do about it? And he said, I don't know. And I said, well, it's going to reflect in your practice. And he's just so busy that he can't take care of it right now. But that is not a reason not to have a good front desk person. So
no, dude, and you totally crushed it, right? And we're all the same way. It's not just you and your buddy. Like, we all have the first impression, right? There's 2 things. It's not even the plan of care. And this is what I want everybody that's listening or hearing the replay or whatever, is there's the first impression, and then there's the last impression, which is called in the lingo the peak end rule, right? It's how we left our experience. There's the first impression, and then there's the last impression. And the last impression is the lasting impression.
The more lasting impression.
Exactly. So however we were made to feel, even if our plan of care was 8 visits, 10 visits, 12 visits over 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 weeks, what we will remember is the peak end, the lasting.
You know what? That is so, oh gosh, that is so powerful there.
Right. That's the truth, though. I mean, that's whether we go to Burger King or Arby's or Wendy's or the dentist or the orthopedic surgeon or wherever we are, right? Wherever we're having to go to get our needs met, that last impression is so powerful. And so one of the things that Jerry and I love to preach is that the goal of that very first phone call is not to get them on the schedule. The goal of the very first phone call is to begin to build a relationship with our potential client that will last the lifetime of their life cycle. And we always want to be the last touch point.
Oh gosh.
Even if they go somewhere else, right? Even if they go somewhere else, let that sink in. I want that to really hold a place. Even if they go to another provider, we still want to call them back. We still want to be the last touch point that asks them, how was your visit? Are you feeling better? Did you get your rotator cuff, your Achilles heel, your ACL, whatever it is, feeling better?
That's so.
Like we always
That's
want to be the
powerful.
last touch point.
That is so powerful. I remember I was just listening to. Remember we talked yesterday, but before you called, before I called, or before you called, I was listening to Les Brown. You know what he said? The purpose of our customer call is not to please your customer. I'm like, what? You're not supposed to please. You're
Seems
supposed to
insane, right? Right? It
amaze.
seems so contradictory to what you would ever believe.
Uh-huh. He said you're not supposed to please your customer because everybody's pleasing them. Your purpose is to amaze your customer. And same thing with healthcare. If you want to get that job that you're looking for, if you want to start that business that you're trying to start, ACG, you don't please, you
Yeah.
amaze them. You bring out the best in them. And like what Todd is saying, you be the last point, whether they've gotten the services from other clinic, you
Doesn't
still
matter.
It doesn't matter. So that's so good. And no wonder Chick-fil-A is killing other restaurants. I don't know if you got Chick-fil-A there, but Chick-fil-A's product is not even the best. I mean, let's face it.
How you feel.
I mean, it's chicken and bread.
Yeah.
But because they say please and thank you and they try to amaze you, gosh, people are coming back. They're closed Sunday. Imagine that. But their sales are still good.
You're so spot on, dude. And this is the way that I describe it, that if you fail to describe the culture that you want, it will be described for you by the behavior that you tolerate.
Oh, gosh.
Right. And so you think about Chick-fil-A, what you just said. Chick-fil-A, if you say thank you, you're not supposed to ever say you're welcome. Like in Chick-fil-A's culture, saying you're welcome is taboo. What you're supposed to say at Chick-fil-A is my pleasure.
That's simple.
Right. And so just that simple distinction of language, right? And the power of language, the power of words goes so far. And there's a reason that Chick-fil-A has so much love. And as you sort of described, Mike, with a mediocre product is undeniable because of how people feel.
That's so
because
true.
of the first and last experience, their peak end rule. So I think that it's the same thing with, and even more important in many ways with healthcare.
That's so true. It's
Right.
even more
Because
important. I
it's
love
not
that.
just trying to fill our bellies. And what I've done and what I do with all of my clients, and we all know this intuitively, but the reality is that what we need to do as business owners, as leaders, is we need our passive residual income to exceed our monthly expenses. Because otherwise, what we're doing is we're just trading time for money. And it's like I said before, when my uncle died, he was one of the first chiropractors in Denver and worked 5 or 6 days for his entire career and helped a lot of people as a healthcare provider. But he wasn't a good delegator, and he didn't focus on building his passive residual income to exceed his monthly expenses. So he continued to have to go out to work hard every week for his entire career to make that happen.
You mentioned about delegating. A lot of people are asking me, hey, Michael, how do you do what you're doing? You're like everywhere. You're like, we see you all your podcasts in all different platforms. You're like doing this, doing that. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything. I still have a full-time gig. And you know what I do? I delegate. I learn how to have an assistant, virtual assistant, and I delegate them. If you are a business owner right now, or even an employee right now, We learn how to delegate. And this is what Todd is going to teach in the one-on-one coaching program, learning how to delegate. We're all therapists here in this group. I do the evaluation, and I send the therapy assistant to do the treatment. And if you're a therapy assistant, you can delegate also the non-skillable treatment to a tech. And same thing with running a business. You have to learn how to delegate. And this is what's going to be Todd's topic, learning how to delegate, learning how to look for those passive incomes. That way you can, do more what you really like. In my case, I like doing evaluation. I like I like teaching. I like, talk about dementia and stuff like that. So that's what I do. So,
No,
well,
dude, you're so solid with what you're doing. And one of the things that I learned a few days, weeks, months, years ago is the difference between great leaders and good leaders. And what I learned is two of the primary distinctions between a good leader and a great leader is their ability to predict, right? We want to know where we're going, the vision, right? The future, like what's getting ready to happen. And our ability to delegate, which is probably more important in many ways, because delegation isn't abdication, right? We're not trying to push our responsibilities onto somebody else. We want to delegate our responsibilities to other people that can make things happen for us, which is why the prediction or the vision is so important, is that we want them to be bought into that vision.
oh gosh, that is so powerful. I wish we're recording this, right? Because I'm learning a lot.
I assume you're recording. I don't know. I think I've delegated the recording responsibility.
You know what?
But this
That is so true. We as a leader in this healthcare field, when you become an OT, you become a PT, you become a speech therapist, or you become a PTA or a CODA, you instantly become a leader in your field. We are leaders in our field. You are the leader in your patient's plan of care. If you don't know how to delegate, you're gonna die or delegate, something like that, like what Michael Hyatt is always saying.
Of course, dude. And what I appreciate about this whole entire phone call, which has been, almost at an hour, we have never even got into the real primary reason for the phone call, which is a business, right? Which is, I think, awesome. And I just want to share this with all of you, which is an opportunity. Imagine if you had an opportunity to be a part of Uber before Uber became Uber.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome, right?
Like, just let that sink in for a moment or two. So I got involved with an organization July 4th, which I like to jokingly call Todd's Financial Independence Day. All of us want to have more money coming in every month than we can trade our time for, right? That's what we want to do. We want to be able to support our friends and family and whoever it happens to be. So I will, I'll put a link in this chat below, but iBoomerang is in an amazing position to Uberize, if you will, travel. So imagine Uber on the front end and Amazon on the back end. And the way that you make money is there's nothing to sell, which is what first drew me to this opportunity in the first place. I've always resisted, like the plague, network marketing, having to sell my mom and aunt and next door neighbor dishwashing detergent or soap or whatever it might be, right? The way that you make money with this opportunity in the beginning is you make 50% of whatever they're saving on their travel. They don't have to buy anything.
Mm-hmm.
No monthly auto ship. There's no selling involved whatsoever. So, Mike, I'll put in a link for everybody here to check it out more. But this is part of the reason that I'm so passionate about this, is that I love and am deeply committed to supporting non-surgical, non-pharmaceutical healthcare providers. That's what is at my heart. And I realized a while ago that what most of us, most of you are doing is trading time for money. Right? Like
Talking to me, trading time for money.
Right, which is what you're doing, which is what we're all doing, right? And what I really want to do is help provide a passive, predictable residual income, because I don't want any of us, any of you, to be so passionate about what you're doing until you're 72 years old and then die when you're 73.
That's so true. You know, I'm 41 and I feel it. So, and I just can't wait to
We're all doing
make.
the same thing, right? We're all passionate about what we do. And what I love and appreciate about most of the people in your group, which are PTs, OTs, etc., we would give away what we do for free if we could.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we're kind of afraid of that financial conversation, whether it's with our boss or our patient. But imagine if we put ourselves in a position that we were making more money outside of the patient engagement. Right? So imagine we're making, let's just make up a number, $100 an hour while we're treating. What if we could also make $100 an hour while we're not treating?
I love that.
Right, because then we can build a team, right? And then we have more flexibility to build transitioners, right? More capability, more provisioners, more providers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we all want to do, right? Like, I don't think that anybody in your group is looking to become the Daddy Mac or the Mac Daddy, right? We all want to build something that is bigger than we are, which is what we all want to be a part of, is something more significant. So anyway, I'll put some posts in for everybody to learn more about this amazing opportunity. And Mike, what I shared with you before is part of what is so powerful about this opportunity now is that it hasn't even launched yet. It won't launch until Labor Day weekend. So this gives all of us an opportunity. Imagine if you didn't have something to sell, if you were sharing this opportunity with the friends and families that you know that are traveling, that could save a considerable amount of money, and you made 50% on everything that they saved. The other thing that I really love about this, Mike, and you know me as much as anyone, I'm a grateful servant of the Alpha and Omega, who I believe has provided this opportunity to help us make a huge difference in our orbits, in our communities, in our social networks, to really be able to make an amazing difference in what we're doing together.
Amen. Amen. That is so good. Well, would you be able to do us a webinar for that?
Brother, you know me.
Since you're going to have access to the group
I told you this before. Any question that Mike Chua asks, Todd Wickstrom will always say yes.
There you go. Well, once we have you as a moderator or for the group, once we get to access, obviously you can go ahead and do your webinar inside the group, and then that way we can watch what Groove Enhancers really is, and also iBoomerang is. So again, thank you very much, Todd, for your time. I really appreciate you for
my pleasure, brother,
for coming over and for being part of the team to be an alternative career coach, not only for me because you're coaching me, but as well as for the rest of the our members. We're growing. I just added like 84 new members. Gosh, it's just growing.
As you're coaching me, the same thing, right? Like we're all a part of the same family.
Mm-hmm. And obviously there's a reason why people are wanting to come in and join this alternative careers for rehab professional, because they want to find that alternative career. Yep. And what Todd is offering here is actually obviously an alternative career. Go reach out to him, go to his website, grooveenhancers.com, talk to him. We're all human beings here. People are like, I receive like 10 random messages in my personal account, not even my business page now. I get all those random messages. If you can reach out to me, you can definitely reach out to Todd and ask him, hey Todd, what should I do with my life? What do I need to do with my life right now? And he's a good man. He's a Green Bay Packer fan. So there you go. And again, thank you very much, Todd. Any last parting wisdom for us?
You're golden, whatever you say. And as I've shared with you before, brother, whatever your question is, my answer will always be yes.
Thank you very much, Todd. Again, thank you very much, ACG. I appreciate you guys. And always remember the word fast. I always tell this, FAST. You got to take action fast. First, it's like our Facebook page. Subscribe to our page, because the more likes, the better, right? Like and like and like. And like Todd Wickstrom's page, he has this Groove Enhancers group or Facebook page. Like it. And letter A, you got to take action. That's letter A. All this video, it's what I interviewed Todd Wickstrom for 1 hour. He could have charged me $1,000 per 1 hour. I could have charged you $300 watching right now, ACG, but we didn't. We decided to not charge because we want to bring out the best in you guys. And yes, we will charge, for my dementia training or whatever, but normally it's here, it's free. You got to take action on it. Taking action is the best thing that you could do for your life. And letter S, you got to learn how to share it. Share this information to your friends, share it to other people, because the more shares, the better. You know why? Because sharing is caring. And at least letter T, not time out. We don't want time out. You want you to push forward. Letter T is teach it, because when you hear it, you forget. When you see it, you remember. But when you actually teach it, you actually understand it more. And that's the reason why we have all these coaches here. They're all teaching. And the reason why you have me as your dementia, quote unquote, dementia coach, because I'm teaching dementia. And that's the reason why Todd is here. He's teaching. And that's the reason why he became an alternative career coach. So remember, FAST. Again, thank you very much. Always remember, be awesome, be great, be excellent. Thank you very much, Todd. You have a good night. Good night, ACG. And God bless you all. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to our show for today. Again, if you need education, you need CEU courses, log into medbridgeeducation.com/TN Therapy Outsource. Use the promo code Dr. Mike or Alternative. Again, thank you very much for watching our show. God bless you. And always remember, movement matters to your brain matter. God bless you and have a great day. Bye-bye.